Welcome to the Dice Tower Daily Chat. I'm your host, Roy Kennedy, and with me today is Candice from Board Game Geek and drummer extraordinaire. What's going on, Candice?
Hey, nothing much, Roy. Thanks for having me.
So I first started talking to Candice during the Board Game Geek virtual convention that we did in correspondence with that, and she hit me up about like music things, and I'm like, we should talk more about that. And I'm like, hey, having you on a daily chat would be a good opportunity to talk about board games and Board Game Geek and whatever we want, because they're so laid back.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm always happy to meet new musicians, especially that share the love of both music and board games.
I wish I played music enough to still be able to consider myself a musician. Like, I'm so far out of it at this point, you know.
I'm about, I guess, like 2 years. Actually, it coincided with me getting way deep into board games. I kind of took a break from playing music actively. So I'll get back to it one day.
So if people don't know who you are or what you do in the board gaming sphere, tell everybody all about that.
Yeah, I'm working on the BGG media team, contributing to the BGG news and hosting some live streams for different online conventions. And when regular conventions are a thing again, I'll hopefully be out there and get to meet more people. But for now, it's all online.
Do you do some of the news articles and things like that too?
Yes, yeah. And that's why I was primarily brought on board, because Eric has been kind of mainly running the news forever for BGG, and there's just so much going on. So they brought me in to come in and kind of focus a little more on slightly heavier games that he doesn't play as much or enjoy as much as I do. So we have that balance.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely no shortage of board games coming out, and it's definitely hard to keep up with everything.
Goodness.
I mean, it's impossible to play all of the great games that are out, not to mention all the games in general, you know?
Just not enough time. I actually just had a post go up today. It was kind of a preview, first impressions of Tekenyu, Obelisk of the Sun. Yeah. Have you played that yet?
I've actually played that as well, so definitely a, I don't know, I would consider myself more of a thematic gamer, but I figured that was a big crunchy Euro that I actually kind of enjoyed some of the mechanics of as well.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and for whatever reason, like I always liked Teotihuacan, and I've only played Zulkan and Trismegistus once, but for whatever reason, this one, I don't know, I enjoy so much, I keep wanting to play it. But yeah, there are a lot of like fun mini games, but definitely not very highly thematic, but very, very crunchy with the mechanisms.
Yeah, for sure. Everybody, make sure to leave us tons of questions, and we'll get to those as well. But one of the things I wanted to start with is, so like, what would you say are the kind of games that you really enjoy? I know you said you do more of the heavy games when you're doing these different news things.
Yeah, I'm really all over the spectrum here. I like a lot of lighter games. I'm getting into a lot of more historical games, and I actually, just a couple weeks ago, played my first 18xx game. I played...
Oh, snap.
I know. I played 18 Chesapeake, which is kind of an intro level 18xx, and the whole time I'm like, you know, just trying to figure it out. But then I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I've been on just a quest. That's how I get. I get very like obsessive about games, and I'm just like, I can't wait to play again. I ended up buying it, and I can't wait to play it again. So, but I don't know. I love heavier games. I love Too Many Bones. You know, I really a little bit of everything. I think I have a one of my favorite mechanics is deck building. So I love a lot of games that incorporate deck building with a board game, like Great Western Trail, or even Mombasa technically, Clank.
Yeah.
I'm one
Have you played Clank Legacy yet?
Yeah, I'm one game from finishing.
I loved it so much because I really enjoy the thematic story elements of it, and I love the fact that game, like every single game, you were unlocking new things and exploring
Yeah,
new things. Like some of these legacy games, you'll play them and it'll be like some games will kind of feel the same. Like in that game,
right.
like every single game, there was stuff to do and new things to unlock.
It's super fun. I definitely like recommend it, even if you've never played Clank. Like I have friends of mine who don't necessarily enjoy Clank, but they played Clank Legacy and they dig it. And yeah, I'm one game away, but I'm gonna be sad when it's done. But I like Clank a lot. I'm trying to think. PAX Premier, second edition. Love that game. I played, some of my friends got me playing PAX Renaissance. Was it last year? It's crazy because I've only really been deep in the hobby for just a little over 2 years now. So,
Gotcha.
but I've played so many games that I'm
Wow,
like, was
you've
it
definitely
just,
fallen into the deep end
yeah.
of board gaming.
Oh yeah. And now it's like I'm getting into the GMT coin games. And there's just not enough time in the day for all the games that I want to play. Like my backlog is crazy
Well,
of
what was
games
like
to
the
play.
like catalyst or like the first games that made you go from like seeing board games as just like, oh, that's a family thing that people do, to being like, oh, this is a hobby. Like there's crazy
Yeah,
modern games out there that are really cool. What was the game that
man,
got you hooked?
it was actually Mysterium, and
Oh, nice.
I'll tell you why. A couple years, okay, so maybe like 4 years ago, actually a musician friend of ours told us about Dixit. And Dixit was just like the coolest thing. I brought it to like our Thanksgiving trip, played it, and I just like got all the expansions. I was like, this is great. And at that point, I'm playing like Farkle, Skippo, Cards Against Humanity, whatever. But Dixit was kind of like, I didn't even realize I was kind of getting into the hobby. So it was maybe a year or two after that. My partner Matt ended up getting me Mysterium for my birthday, and we couldn't quite figure out we were like, I don't think we're playing this right. Maybe there's a video. And then ended up on YouTube finding Will Wheaton's tabletop, and then you know how YouTube is.
Yeah, yeah.
Just started seeing like, oh, they also play these other games that I've never heard of. And I come from like a board gaming family, but like,
Right.
the Monopoly, the Uno, but like my parents used to play Pinochle with their close friends every weekend, and so we played board games, but I had no idea at that point that all these other games existed. And I just started buying them and playing them with friends and introducing friends to games, and man, that was how it kind of got started. And then I ended up going to a board game meetup by myself and playing Great Western Trail with strangers at a time when I was only playing like King of Tokyo and Splendor.
Oh, that's
And
crazy.
yeah, it blew my mind. And I went home and I was just like, I have to buy that because I want to figure it out. And that's kind of where I'm at with 18xx right now. I'm like, my first game was very much a learning game, but I'm just fascinated with like how deep it can get. And I love stock market mechanics and anything. That's another one of my favorite mechanics.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
How far down the rabbit hole did you have to go before you found out about Board Game Geek, like the website?
oh my goodness. So I don't even remember what. Actually, it was before the Great Western Trail meetup because that's how I
Gotcha.
found it. I think I was looking for like a meetup or something to go to because I was like, if I want to be playing as much as I wanted to play, like when I was like discovering all these games, I was like, I have to meet board game friends because I can't always just get my non-gamer friends together as much as I want to be playing games. And I come from a background of being in bands and having a whole clique of musician friends that, you know, we hang and play music or jam or go to concerts. But it was like I needed to find people who were into like board games
for
the way
sure.
I was kind of getting into it. So I think I was just looking around for a group to play with and stumbled upon BGG, and my life changed.
That's like I was telling you. I was like, we all end up wanting to be musicians, but then we settle for becoming board game media.
It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Right now, I'm actually designing my own game called
nice.
it's called Stage Left, and it's actually a game about building a rock band, playing gigs, and just trying to gain the most fans. And it's a deck building board game,
Awesome.
which I love. Yeah,
I'm excited because I feel like there's so many genres of board games that are still out there that could be like explored more fully, and that's one that I've always I've played a couple of different games that were kind of music themed, but they never quite like fit that niche. So I hope great success for that. That'd be awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it was the same thing for me. I was just like, I had no desire to be a board game designer, but I was like, I want to make this game. Like I want to. Because there's nothing really like it out there. So, and I definitely think music-related games in general are underrepresented. We're starting to see more and more here and there. Like there was Big Easy Busking. There are a couple of different ones that are popping up, but more, you know.
Where you definitely hooked up with the right website to be able to find all the right tools to be able to figure out how to design a game. That's for sure.
Right. Yeah. So it's been quite a process working on that too. So it's like I'm working for BGG part-time, so I have a full-time job, BGG part-time, and then my game designer hat goes on for another part of the time. And it all keeps me busy, but it's like I'm doing what I love, so I enjoy it.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to take a few questions here. Gator Dave says, Candice and Roy, who is your favorite drummer?
Ooh. That's like saying, what's your favorite board game? It's hard to say. But I will say one of my absolute favorites for the past several years is a drummer named Mark Juliana. He's a jazz fusion kind of guy. Like he has a couple albums that are like straight up jazz quartet, but then he'll have this progressive electro fusion stuff going on, and he just wows me so much. Like he goes that extra level. I think he's an alien kind of thing. That's one of mine. What about you?
I would say Candice, but I think that'd be pandering. But I'm gonna say I like pop punk a lot, and I liked Blink-182 and all that stuff. So I'm gonna say Travis Barker, just because his technical stuff is so crazy. So
he's so ridiculous. I love Travis Barker. I've seen Blink-182 a bunch, and then I saw him actually play with, what was it called? The Mars Volta had like a spin-off project that didn't last that long. I think it was called Anti-Mask. But one of the shows I saw, they had Travis Barker playing drums with them. Yeah.
I recently saw he did like Nirvana covers with Post Malone, and I'm like, holy smokes! Like he's still got it. Like it's still really good.
I'm pretty sure. Also, here's a neat little story. We used to live in North Hollywood, and in the area we lived in, there were a lot of different people have studios, and we are pretty sure that his studio was like right down the street from where we used to live, because at some point we were either biking by and saw his like tattooed up head, and we're like, that's Travis Barker's studio. So I'm pretty sure he was there. But awesome. Yeah, I love Travis Barker also. I could probably name a ton. I really like Danny Carey from Tool. I really like of course, Dave King is another jazz drummer from this group called the Bad Plus. Every drummer that's ever played with the Mars Volta, is
a win.
Yes, yes. But anyway, yeah, I could list a million.
Gator Dave also asked, who is your favorite heavy designer? With quotations around heavy. I
Ooh,
guess designer
okay.
that designs heavy games.
You want to go first, or is that for me?
You can do it. You can hit it up.
Okay. I think I gotta say Alexander Pfister because, man, not only do I love Great Western Trail, but I love Mombasa. I love Maracaibo. I love Blackout Hong Kong. There's just
Mm-hmm.
something. I love his later games also. Isle of
Mm-hmm.
Skye and what's of course I can't think of it right now. But yeah, I think Alexander Pfister is he's just one of my favorites. I just he has such an interesting design like touch. So I would say he's probably my favorite.
I think my favorite is heavy, but on the complete opposite side of the spectrum. I really like Corey Konezga because Battlestar Galactica and Twilight Imperium and all those
Oh,
style games. And I'm really excited to see what he's doing next because he spun off and is starting his own studio. I just heard an interview from him where he's talking about trying to think outside the box and stuff. I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to see what kind of games he comes up with next.
okay, wait. So I didn't even know that the same guy who designed Battlestar Galactica designed Twilight Imperium.
Well, he did the expansions for Twilight Imperium. So he did all the expansions for Twilight Imperium. He also did Mansions of Madness. He
Okay.
did he basically a lot of those Fantasy Flight games he had a lot of touches on. So a lot of the
Yeah.
different ones there are his. He also did Outer Rim and Star Wars Rebellion,
Cool.
which is another huge, big, heavy game,
I
and I
love
really enjoy those.
Rebellion. Yeah, Matt, my partner, he's a big Star Wars fan,
Mm.
so to get him into games, I get the pirate games and the Star Wars games. But man, I love Rebellion. I really liked Outer Rim. I didn't like friends of mine had it, and I wasn't like I gotta go buy that.
Yeah,
But and it's a game I would like kind of play anytime.
I
But
feel
I
I feel the
love
same. It's like I'd
Battlestar.
play it, but I don't know that I need
Yeah,
to go own it. Which is kind of crazy.
right, right. But I love Battlestar. And I am on a hunt to get the expansions for Battlestar Galactica.
Hmm.
Just putting
For
that
you,
out there in the universe.
for you where it was Mysterium, Battlestar Galactica was the game that really got me into the hobby because I'd played board games and card games and role playing games all my life. But like when I
Okay.
decided I'm gonna do board games, like board games is gonna be my hobby, was when I played Battlestar Galactica and realized this whole team aspect and betrayers, and the game was like partially cooperative. I was like, how can you do cooperative in a board game? I've never seen that before, and
Yeah,
it changed my worldview around board games. I was like, what? Board games are cool, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, I've had some really great gaming memories and experiences playing Battlestar. Because like my friends and I will kind of make a day out of it. We'll do like a potluck brunch
Hmm.
and just take our time with it. And I don't know. We also the same group played Game of Thrones, the board
Oh, that's
game.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely super epic. Another question here. Candice, how much do you rock out on a keytar? I guess I see the keytar in your background.
That guitar is actually that's actually Matt's. That's not mine. But I do have a Telecaster there because I play guitar also. Um, but it's fun. Yeah, yeah. I don't think he ever used it at a gig of ours, but at some point it's just like we got to get a guitar.
I was say you gotta have at least one song where it's like you bust, like you have the keytar hidden, then you bust it out,
Yeah,
and
and
then
then
everybody's like,
yeah.
"What keytar?" I don't know. It just seems like one of those instruments that people would go crazy just to see.
Right, right, totally. That's why it's here.
Let's see. Oh, Kabuki Kid asks, "How many instruments can you play?"
Okay, so I mean, I could play pretty much a lot of things under the percussion umbrella. So I play drum kit. I could play some hand drums like djembe, congas and bongos. I'm not properly trained, but I would say guitar and bass
Hmm.
enough to write. And that's why I kind of picked up guitar because I wanted to write music.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't, I can do some covers, but I've never actually kind of performed professionally on anything besides drums, but I do play a decent amount of guitar.
My wife's trying to beg me to buy a cajon or whatever, like the boxes.
Yeah,
I'm like, why do you need a cajon? Like, what's that for? She's like, I want a drum box. I'm like,
get it for her. We have one too. So the cool thing is, Matt and I are both drummers, and he plays more instruments than me. And it was actually funny, like when I moved out to LA, we weren't together relationship wise at the time, but we were just close friends from being in a band together back in Philly. And I was trying to start a band, and we would always be like short, like we didn't have a bass player. So I'd be like, hey Matt, can you come play bass? Can you come? Cool. Then we get a bass player. Hey Matt, can you come play keys? And they were just like, sure, because he can play everything. So we do have a lot of percussion, and I don't know, I think it's awesome that we're both drummers.
Oh, that is awesome. Especially so you can mix it up all the time. I think those cajones are good for like the acoustic set. So.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And he used to do more of that, like playing with singer-songwriters. But yeah, I mostly do drum kit.
Bazo says, so what is your drum setup? What style do you play most?
Oh, okay, good question. So right now I have 3 kits. One is a copper Q drum kit that has a 24-inch kick by 14. So it's big 13-inch and 16-inch toms. That's pretty much my setup. 1 rack, 1 floor. I'm always of the mindset, like I used to have all these splash cymbals and chinas and double kick pedal when I was like listening to Dream Theater. But I, at some point, matured and just started appreciating drummers that could do less with, or more with less.
Yeah.
You know, so I started just trying to like strip down my setup and just see how creative I could be with a smaller setup. So
and it's a lot easier when you're gigging, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. Pack everything up. Yeah, so I have Suzy Q is the big copper kit. But then I also a couple years ago started studying jazz because I was realizing a lot of the rock drummers that I love who had this like great touch were pretty proficient in jazz also. And I'm like, okay. And I played a jazz band in high school, but it was like I wasn't very good. So I started like actually studying jazz more actively, and I got a Gretsch maple bebop kit. So that's like with the 18-inch kick, 10-inch rack, 14-inch floor tom. And I will note that I love big hi-hats. I love big hi-hats. So I usually play 15 or 16-inch hi-hats, and then like 1 crash and 1 ride that I can crash and ride on. Sometimes I'll pull some special cymbals out, but like I like to keep it pretty mellow. And then I have
Kabuki
like,
Kid does say, what cymbals do you use? Paste or Zildjian?
Well, I used to use Zildjian. And I'm actually trying to think. My drum kit is over at our bass player's house, and I actually haven't been over there in a while. But I was getting into the Istanbul Agop cymbals. And then I'm trying to think. I usually would use for years I used Zildjian A Customs. I'm trying to think what my other ride is. I think it's another like Istanbul Agop, because again I was getting into jazz a little bit more, and I like that like darker, drier tone. But I think I had 1 or 2 Sabian cymbals, but I was never a Sabian girl. It was mostly Zildjian. I had a couple Paiste cymbals, but then I started shifting into Istanbul Agop signature stuff.
We used to have a drummer in one of my bands that used to always like crack his cymbals, And he didn't act like, this was when we were really young. He's like a younger guy, and like he
Yeah.
didn't have a job, so like to play gigs, we'd have to like buy him new cymbals. And I'm like, dude, stop cracking cymbals! Like, what's going on?
Cymbals are not cheap.
Not even close.
Cheap. And actually, I was actually thinking about that, like, as I got into board gaming. I'm like, well, I'm buying a lot of games, but these are much cheaper than drum gear.
Oh, I actually, me and my wife went into the music store the other day, and we were looking at like the prices on all the stuff. And this is stuff that I used to look at like all the time. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, this amp and this thing and this thing. And my wife's like, holy smokes, those are really expensive. I'm like, no, this is the same price they always were. It just seems expensive now since I don't have a hobby that's that expensive, you know?
Right. But yeah, it's very expensive. Especially cymbals.
Coralu asks, what is the best unique theme that you've seen in a game or would want to see in a game?
Oh, that's a great question. I gotta think about this for a second. Because I do love unique themes, and I feel like I can't really think of something off the bat.
I think it would be interesting to have a theme of like a YouTuber or media person. I haven't seen like a YouTuber themed board game where it's like, oh, you gotta get the video made, you gotta put it up and like see how many views it's gonna get, and then try to make your next video and see your subscriber count go up. Because I mean,
yeah,
we're hardcore YouTubers over here at the Dice Tower.
I actually was talking to somebody recently who's designing a game, and I was suggesting different themes to him. And one of the themes I suggested was make it about social media. And everybody's, just trying to, get the likes and doing whatever you have to do.
You got to follow the trends. I mean, there's so many Euro-y style games that could easily fit into, because it's like, okay, well, like these kind of videos or these kind of posts are like really popular right now, and they go out of vogue, and now you have to try to get these type of posts instead, So, who knows?
I have to really circle back on that, because I'm trying to think of like the most unique theme I've seen so far. I don't know. I'll have to circle back on that one. But I do love seeing unique themes, and that's kind of why I went the direction of making a game about building a rock band and playing gigs, because it's like you don't really see that. And it's also just like, that's my background.
Kabuki Kid says, does having a cajon bag count as having a cajon? There was this whole thing of people buying cajon bags specifically to hold board games. It's like a big thing in like the board game hobby.
I have done that before. We went on a trip, and I had one of those like cube kind of packs. I forget the name of the brand of it, but we were going away for a couple of days. I was like, I can't just bring like 4 games, So then I took the cajon case, loaded it up.
You might be one of the few people that has a cajon bag that you've used for board games, but also have a cajon.
Yeah. Totally.
That's awesome. Let's see. There's tons of questions here. I'm so far behind on questions because I can tell by the way people are talking. You always see people talking about stuff we were talking about a ways back.
Oh.
But yeah. Jordan says, I seem like I just made it for the drum talk. Drum talk all the time.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
That's awesome. So are there any interesting, exciting games you played recently? I know you said you just played Tekkenu. Is there anything else that's really caught your attention lately?
Yeah, so I played Labyrinth, War on Terror. That's a GMT game, 2-player. I loved it. Like, if you can kind of get past, I know the theme, some people won't want to kind of dig into, because one person is going to play the U.S. and one person is going to be playing Islamist extremists. And but the game is it's a card driven game. It's just so well done. The factions are asymmetric, and there's just such great tension. Like my friend Jake and I, my neighbor, played it both for the first time, and it took us probably like 5 hours, but we enjoyed every single minute. So I really like that. Again, like I got into Too Many Bones about a month ago and got heavy into that.
Hmm.
Tekenu, really good. What else have
So
I
do you
been
really
playing?
like the games that are like the longer play times? Because a lot of the games it seems like you really enjoy are like, oh man, it's this big, epic, like long playtime game.
But guess what? I was just about to say there's a fun party kind of game,
Uh huh.
Simio. Have you played that one?
I've
They
heard
just
of it, but I
posted
haven't
a
played.
game night. It's pretty cool. It's a like a cooperative kind of you're trying to guess one character in this
Oh
lineup
yeah,
of
yeah.
cards, and the person is playing cards and saying
Hmm.
like it's either similar to this or not like this other card, and you have to kind of deduce which one is right.
Hmm.
I like that game a lot for kind of shorter. There also Blitzkrieg
Oh yeah.
by Paulo Mari. I think that game is awesome. I've taught it to non-gamer friends who walked away just loving it because
Hmm.
it's like Watergate. Also, I love Watergate. You have like so much tension in a tiny box. um, another one card game along the same wavelength, Air, Land, and Sea.
Hmm.
That's pretty good. Like easy to learn, lots of nice tension. Trying to think what else I've been playing. I'm going to be trying to play some more 18 Chesapeake. Um, I'm going to be playing some Fort and
Oh nice. I can't wait for
High
that to come in.
Rise.
That looks really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I actually had a friend introduce me to SPQF, which is the game Fort originated from, just back in February. And I snagged a copy off the BGG market because I was like, okay, I know this new version's coming out, but I want to like play the old version too, so I can kind of compare. And it's just like it's a really fun deck builder with a couple of twists. So I played Fort back at the Gamma Trade Show back in March,
Hmm.
and really dug it. So I'm looking forward to kind of like getting a little more into that. What have you been playing?
We just played Marvel United yesterday.
Okay.
I really enjoyed that. I just am really huge on the Marvel theme, so I think it's kind of fun. It's a light game that I'm excited to try it out with my kids because it's just got like the character cards are just like simple iconography. So I'm like,
Uh
man,
huh.
I feel like I could play this with my kids. I mean, it's going to be complicated with the different villains and stuff, but if I can talk them through that part, we can play the rest of it cooperatively together, and that'll be a lot of fun.
That's cool. Yeah, I would say I'm not a big Marvel person. Uh, I know what's the Marvel game the LCG that just came out
Oh,
or
the Dean actually was asking who my favorite Marvel Champions hero to play is.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
Marvel
yeah,
Champions. I
yeah.
play a ton of that game.
I'm definitely down to try that, but like
Hmm.
that's not one of my favorite IPs. Like I'll go to see the movies and I'll be like, that was a good movie, but I'm not like die
Like,
hard about
not
it.
realistic enough for me.
Right. But like Battlestar Galactica, love. There's a
Hmm.
reboot coming out. I can't wait because I love the show. I love the game. I was kind of raised a Star Wars fan,
Oh,
so
nice. So you're all about
I'm
the
any
sci-fi.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I have my dad, who was actually he was a musician as well. He was a big sci-fi guy and kind of got that ingrained in me, in my blood, I guess.
And Dean, my favorite Marvel Champions is Doctor Strange currently, just because his deck is crazy. It's crazy. Um, Kabuki Kid asks, any great movies or shows that you've watched recently?
Oh, okay, sure, yeah. There's a show on Hulu called Dave. which is pretty funny. I like a lot of sitcoms, but then we just watched Band of Brothers on HBO, which is like from way back, but I'm just like getting into these war games and historical games, and I was just like, oh, I want to watch this show. And I heard it was just like an excellent show, and it really was. I mean, it was kind of touching. So that was really good. Trying to think. I watch a lot of game videos. I haven't been
like board game stuff.
Yeah, board game stuff.
I agree. Like
always,
whenever people ask me these questions, I'm like, I don't spend a whole lot of time watching movies. I mean, I watch big box movies that everybody else watches, but I don't spend a whole lot of time watching shows because I watch YouTube and I consume board game media stuff because it pertains to my interests.
Yeah. I just go like recently, of course, because I'm going down the 18xx rabbit hole. I'm watching a bunch of videos, either people talking about different games or playing a game, and then before that, it's like coin games because I want to start. I've had Cuba Libre on my shelf for months now, so I want to start with that one, but I already picked up a couple other ones. So I was like watching videos to kind of learn those. But yeah, honestly, I watch a lot of just game content online when I do have time to kind of watch something.
I really love like the board game media sphere as a whole. Like I just find it so awesome to consume all sorts of different people's content, and it's really enjoyable, and it's just so helpful because I mean like we do reviews and stuff here on the Dice Tower. Board Game Geek does tons of like different news articles, and like there's tons of different ways to be informed about like the purchases you make in board games. Once you do purchase the board game, how to play the board game,
play it,
you know, and then like other people's opinions on the board game, and then you like if you want to dig super deep, you can be like, oh well, this person says this strategy tip or this thing, or hey, there's these pictures that this person took of this game. I don't know. I just really love the community as a whole, and like growing it with all sorts of different people, and like having all sorts of awesome people come in and do board game media. It's really great.
Totally. And there's so many different personalities, so it's like it really is awesome, and I love seeing the community grow. It seems like it's just like more people coming out of the woodworks, and
it's definitely in our best interest to grow it even more. You know?
Yes, absolutely.
We need more people to buy that awesome Candice Rock Tour game. You know, so
stage left.
There you go, stage left.
That's right. Whenever I'm done playtesting and tweaking it, one day it'll see the light of day.
Corlu asks, do you have any tips for surviving a long playtime game?
Well, I'll tell you this. I was trying to think actually recently if there's ever been a game that's taken a long time that I haven't enjoyed. Like, everybody's different, and I think for me, if it's a game I like and I'm interested in, I don't even know what time it is, and they're like 5 hours flew by. It doesn't even faze me. But I know some people just like, oh, I'm not playing a game that's 3 hours. Like, that sounds crazy. And I think you just kind of just got to play games that you like, something that you're interested in, and you probably won't even notice the time, the hours flying by.
I really love those like long games that are just, even though they're long, they're really engaging. So that way there's like still low downtime, and then there's lots of like things to think about, and then sometimes there's things to respond to like on other people's turns, like whether you're following different actions or responding to different people in certain ways, and like you need to know what's going on the board at all times. It's like very interesting to like play a game and then look at your watch, like you said, and be like, holy smokes, like that was crazy, like I was engaged the whole time. And also, like you were saying with some of the 18xx games you play where you're thinking about the game after the game's over, it's like hard to go to sleep at night because you're like, oh my goodness, like what if I did this, or what if I do this next time, or that sort of thing. Is always so fun.
Yeah, and that's how I was with Labyrinth, and I posted about it, and I actually made a friend via Twitter who asked me to play a game because there's a Steam app for it, and we were able to kind of start a game together, but unfortunately it timed out on us because when I created it, I didn't realize it had a 3-hour limit.
Oh.
I thought I was so close. I was like, I think I'm gonna win. Like, good stuff was happening, and I had the same awesome tension that I felt from playing the actual tabletop physical copy of the game. Yeah, I really like that game, and that's the other reason I'm like anxious to get into the coin series because Volko Runke, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's the guy who designed it, and he's also the guy who designed the coin system. So I'm just kind of that's me. I kind of if I like something, I want to know like everything this person designed, and I want to just like understand because I get fascinated by the actual game designs too, which I think is kind of what made me another part of what made me want to like design a game. It was just
Jeff also asks, what is your favorite coin game from GMT?
Okay, Jeff. Well, I haven't played one yet. I ran the playbook for Cuba Libre. So it's hard to say, but I can probably I suspect I will like the Fire in the Lake. I've just heard like incredible things about Fire in the Lake. I think it's going to be one of the last ones I play because I heard it's a little more difficult. I also picked up Gandhi, Colonial Twilight, and Cuba Libre too. So I don't know because I haven't actually played a whole game. I've only run the playbook for Cuba Libre. And I love the system. So let's circle back to that 6 months from now after I've actually played some of them.
Have to do a follow-up on this specific question.
Yeah.
Corlu asks, any fun behind-the-scenes stories from Board Game Geek or Game Night?
Oh. Sure, yeah. I actually, so I started working with the BGG team back. I first started having conversations with Lincoln and Eric back in December. And so I had actually started writing some BGG news articles since the beginning of the year. And, we were kind of like, let's see where this goes. And the timing of it was really cool because I think it might have been the first time this has ever happened. But Scott Alden, the owner of Board Game Geek, hosted a BGG staff retreat.
Nice. Yeah.
In Dallas, and I got to go attend that, and it was just such a cool experience because I didn't really know what to expect. I just hopped on the plane, got to the hotel, dropped my bags off, and then came downstairs, and it was time for like our first night like dinner outing. And I just started seeing all these people. Like I had known the Brothers Murph guys from just a local convention out here in LA. And I was just like, oh.
That's
and
awesome.
It kind of just like, it was really nice to meet the whole team and to kind of just be in a room together for 2 days brainstorming different ideas. And then we had an awesome epic game day, and actually Rodney ended up teaching me Watergate because everybody was super cool. I was like, yeah, I have this like backlog of games that I've owned that I've never played, and they were like, well, let's fix that. So I think that was the first time I played Heaven and Ale, which I really dig that game. And then Watergate, and there was like one other one I played there. But that's kind of a behind the scenes.
Their facility there is so amazing. Like I'm like, oh my goodness, it looks so great.
It's really. I was just, we would take breaks for lunch, and I just walk. Because I've actually never been to a BGG con yet, aside from an online one. Yeah. So I had never seen that library. I've only been to, besides the Gamma Trade Show, which I went to in March. I went to Spiel last year, but like
nice.
Beyond that, I've only gone to like local LA conventions. Because again, I'm still relatively new in the hobby. As far as behind the scenes game night, I don't know. Lincoln and Nikki are super cool. Dave is cool. I always have a blast. Like they live maybe a half an hour away from me, so it's it's always super fun. And actually, here's kind of a funny story or stressful story, kind of. But the second time I filmed with Game Night, we were doing Paladins of the West Kingdom.
Oh, nice.
And we were doing vinyl. So, and Lincoln specifically was like, yeah, you're into music, like we want to play vinyl with you. So I'm like, cool. But for my day job, I had a production release, because I do IT work, and I had a software release that night, and I had to be back home by like 8 o'clock. And so by the time like Paladins took longer than we were expecting, and I was like, well, I'm not just going to come up here and just play one game. So I was like, let's play vinyl. But the whole time vinyl's going, well, not the whole time, but like towards the end,
You're just like stressing out.
Yeah, like I'm like, I gotta go.
You're like selling records, like.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see that if you watch the vinyl episode towards the end, that I might be like,
Candice had some software release sweat beating down.
Yeah. It wasn't stress from the game. It was about getting back for work.
It's always crazy. Like, I don't think people realize how much stuff goes into like recording, playing live, and getting all that stuff together. It's like people see it and they're like, oh, I want to be able to see every single card crystal clear and be able to see all the different stuff. But there's definitely a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make sure live plays and all these things happen.
Totally. Oh, one other really cool thing that came out of probably the first time that I went up to film Game Night was Lincoln and Nikki have like an awesome collection of games too, as you can imagine. But all of their small box games were organized on this shelf. They had this shelf, and I was like, I've been looking for a solution for my like, tiny card games. Like, where did you get this? And it was an IKEA shelf. I don't remember the name of it, but it's an IKEA shelf. We ended up getting one, and it just, you can adjust the height, but it's like really tall and narrow. And everybody who comes over is just like, where did you get that shelf? Because, it's hard to kind of organize those small box games.
Is it like one of the CD DVD shelves they have?
Yes, I think it's intended for DVDs and or CDs, because they're adjustable.
Yeah, I recently saw one of those in a media video once. I'm like, that's a good idea.
They're great. I want to get another one, but Matt thinks I have too many games. So he's like, every time I know he's crazy. Every time I get a game, it's like, which one are you getting rid of? But I'm going to sneak another one in.
You should say, I don't say that about musical instruments.
Yeah, that's right.
That's awesome. Bronzos said, I've started a game of Twilight Imperium several times that we didn't finish, but they were still good days. It's always rough when you start one of those long games and you're not able to actually finish it out, Yeah,
and I heard I haven't played Twilight Imperium yet. Mm-hmm. But I heard they're pretty epic. You're talking about like an 8-hour game kind of thing, or longer?
It depends on who you're playing with and who's running it. I can get one down to like 6 hours, 5.5 hours, but that's with me being very attentive to being like, your turn, go, your turn, go, your turn, go, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I again, like some people might be like, oh, I'm never gonna play a game that long. But if the game is good, I don't even mind. So I definitely want to try Twilight Imperium at some point.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite games for sure. But it's definitely one of those big crunchy games, but on the like Ameritrashy side. But it's got some like Euro mechanics. Like it has the whole like action selection, and then people are able to follow those actions you took. And I just enjoy those games where there's that like political intrigue of like, hey, I'm not going to go here. I'm not going to take over your area. I just have this agenda that says I have to jump right here, you know. I don't know. It makes it sort of interesting, the table talk and negotiations that have to happen in some of the games. It's always very interesting.
That's cool. I love negotiation games like that too. Have you ever played Sidereal Confluence?
No.
That is really fun. I don't have the remastered version of it. I have the original. And I think 5 of us sat down and played it. Was it 5 or 6? No, it was 5 of us. And it's just like, at first, like, it was kind of a rough teach. But once we all figured out what was going on, it's so fun and kind of crazy because you're just trying to convert these different resources and you just have this open simultaneous trading. But that's a good one. I would recommend checking out.
Yeah, it's awesome. I definitely enjoy like the big epic games, and anything that has like a spacey type theme, I'm definitely a huge fan of. So
Are you into Cosmic Encounter?
I really enjoyed Cosmic Encounter. Yeah, I love the negotiation in it. I recently played the Cosmic Encounter Duel as well.
How is that?
It's interesting. I think Tom's going to do his review soon, but we played it several times, and I played it against Jason as well. But it's crazy because like so much of Cosmic Encounter is about the negotiation. So it doesn't have negotiation at all, but it still has a lot of the craziness and zaniness that Cosmic Encounter has. You know, it has like different alien powers, and there's so much alien powers and switching around with special abilities and all sorts of different stuff. And you all have your own deck that you're working on. It definitely is a different game because you're not working together to win with somebody or trying to figure out a way to sneak in a win the same way. But it was a lot of fun. But I really enjoy basic Cosmic Encounter better just because I don't know. I'm the kind of person that I don't mind an allied victory, you know. If I can win with 4 other people, it still counts as a win in my book. I know there's some people that don't agree, but I will negotiate for the win, and I will never backstab you. Promise. Promise.
Maybe. I think I've played Cosmic Encounter twice, maybe 3 times. No, I think it's just been twice. And one time the ending kind of just dragged on. And I was just like, all right, we need to just, let somebody kind of get their last, the little discs out of the planets.
The planets, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of I'm down to play it more, but I don't know if
it's such a group dependent game, you know. It depends on who you play it with.
Yeah.
That's awesome. People are talking about their neighbors still shooting off fireworks. It's a little late for that.
In LA, I feel like they start earlier every year. Like we were hearing them in May, and you still every other day you hear them, and sometimes it's during the day. Like, what are people doing?
Corlu's still trying to get you to circle back about unique themes again.
You know what? I have been kind of thinking about that because another game I really love, it not necessarily a unique theme, but I was just kind of visualizing my shelf. But another game I really, really love is The Great Zimbabwe. I don't know if you ever played that. It's a splatter.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Oh, it's super cool, and it's not quite as hard to understand and as mean as Food Chain Magnate can be. But yeah, I highly recommend that. Okay, so back to unique themes. Flamme Rouge has a pretty unique theme with the cyclists. I recently got into Reef Encounter.
Oh, nice.
I love that game. Again, it's like stock market-y kind of games, where you're you're getting stuff and you're changing the value, increasing and decreasing the value. I love that. And I've actually incorporated that into my game too. But Reef Encounter's cool. I mean, it's not super unique because there are a lot of games underwater these days. I picked up Rap Gods. I I haven't played it yet, but that's kind of, again, another music game.
Yeah.
That's unique themed. What else? I'm visualizing the shell. Ah.
I always think I always say I'm such like a basic nerd when it comes to stuff. Because, I mean, there's so many games about space and so many games about fantasy. But I don't know. I like Star Wars and Star Trek and Lord of the Rings. I don't know what to tell you.
I really enjoy Lord of the Rings, the card game.
Oh, nice.
I ended up, I was looking over there because I used to have a stack of expansion boxes, because I kind of went down the rabbit hole with that, and I was trying to get stuff because I was like seeing stuff go out of print. So if I catch something on sale, try to get it. But I haven't played it in a while, but I really enjoyed it. And actually, my nephew came out to visit, and he's a big Lord of the Rings fan, and it was cool because my very first game of it, we played together, and it was like a cool little bonding experience. But Lord of the Rings is not a unique theme.
Not at all.
So what is the most unique? So Flamme Rouge is pretty good. Trying to just scan through. I like wine-themed games because I'm a wine drinker. I like vinos. I
know a ton of people love viticulture.
I love viticulture with the Tuscany expansion.
Exactly.
I mean,
yeah.
I always liked it, but as soon as I played with Tuscany, I was like, okay, I'll never play it another way. Yeah, that's 99% sure never leaving my collection. I have so many friends who love it too, and every once in a while we'll do like a 6-player game of it. Okay, Tricarion.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of unique. And I'm trying to think, I feel like there's something else magic related that I can't think of right now. But yeah, Tricarion, I really enjoyed that. I've only played it once so far, but I really love the movie The Prestige. So when I played it, it felt like The Prestige.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The tones and just, I think it's just really well done.
Do you do much solo gaming at all?
I wouldn't say I do a whole lot, but I do like to I do like to buy games that you can either play solo or that have a solo mode. But I don't do it as much as I'd like to. And actually, some of the coin games, I think I'm going to end up probably trying to play solo a bit to kind of learn them. I played Tekkenu solo, and that was actually nice. I really enjoyed it. I think that's the bot that you play against is like really it's clever because you have this pyramid of these action tiles that get shuffled and rebuilt every so often, but you flip this tile that says which way this progress token moves. So it's like it starts at the bottom left of the pyramid, then you flip it and it either tells you to go to the right or up and to the right, and then you flip, and that's what dictates what the bot actually does. So I really enjoyed that, and I would play that solo more.
I know Mike played solo. I played it with 3 players, and I focused a lot on like the pillars and stuff like that, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, you kind of gotta like focus on something.
Yeah.
Because, it's just one of those games where you probably will do a lot better if you focus your energy and if you have decree cards that kind of align
help
with
you combo
strategy.
That,
Yeah. When I first started playing Too Many Bones, I played that solo, and I really love Too Many Bones solo. But then I played it with Matt, and I was like, this is so cool co-op. Like, it was just so awesome, bouncing ideas off like, well, if you start here, with this baddie's gonna come this way, and like working together. So I think it's probably one of my favorite games solo. I also like Mage Knight solo, which I've only done once.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I dabble.
I recently played Cloudspire. I played it 3 players, but I was like, man, that might actually be fun solo with the bad guys coming in and figuring out a way to try to take those out. That game is crazy production value.
Yeah. I'm really, like, I have Hoplomachus, one of the Hoplomachus games too. And yeah, Chip Theory does some crazy stuff. I have not taken the plunge into Cloudspire yet, but I will at some point. But a friend of mine who has it, I think he has exclusively played it solo, and he kind of got it to play solo. But yeah, I want to try that at some point.
I just love those games where, I mean, personally, where you can like gather resources and then use those resources to buy different units or different things, and then use those things to attack your opponent. I don't know. I like that sort of thing. So,
speaking of solo, I just picked up Thunderbolt Apache Leader.
Oh, nice.
Have you heard of that one?
I think I've heard of it, but I haven't played.
Liz from Dice Tower, she actually has some videos on it, and I was like, this looks really interesting. And it's not something I would typically think I'd be into, but I just can't say that anymore because there's so many games that a year ago I'd be like, I'm not into that, and now I'm like so into it. So I don't know, but it looked like really different, like a really cool solo experience. So I should be getting that in a couple of weeks, and I'm excited to play that.
That's awesome. Well, we've hit an hour, so I guess we will wrap this thing up. But if people want to find out more about what you do around the internet, or find different things about you and what's going on with Candice, the amazing drummer at Board Game Geek, where can they find out more about your stuff?
I am on Twitter, and I'm at Candy Drum, but it's Candy with an I, CANDIDRUM, Candy Drum. That's about it, but thanks for having me, Roy. This has been super fun, and thanks everybody for tuning in and asking questions. I will keep thinking about the most unique game.
Corlu's not ever going to let you forget it. Like, next time you come on, it's like, what's the most unique?
Yeah. Or I'll just post it on Twitter when I think about it. And
or maybe ask for some like hints
right
about what are some more unique games, guys.
Yep. But yeah, I'm Candy Drum on BGG, and I'm Candy Drum on Twitter. Candy Drum everywhere.
And you can look forward to seeing you more on game nights and in the news and things like that, I'm sure, as well.
Soon enough on game night, hopefully, when we get this pandemic under control.
Remote game night.
Yeah, maybe some more remote game nights. But yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. It's definitely been a ton of fun, and we will see everybody on the next one. Bye.
Thanks again for having me.
Thanks, Candice.